Hello everyone, today we'll discuss about circulatory shock. It is defined as inadequate tissue perfusion that results in inadequate supply of oxygen and nutrients to the tissue, and it leads to tissue damage if not treated. Now, stages of shock. Shock has 3 stages according to severity. First stage or non-progressive shock, second stage or progressive shock, and third stage or refractory shock. Starting with first stage, or it is also known as non-progressive shock or compensated shock. Here, it is due to moderate reduction in the cardiac output, and therefore all the changes are compensated. This compensation is made by mechanism of our body. For example, hemorrhagic shock that results in hypovolemia, or it is also known as hypovolemic shock, that is due to about 10 to 15% loss of blood volume, that is known as compensated shock. About 10% of total blood volume loss, that is without any significant effects, because our body compensates all the changes. Now, there are 3 stages of compensatory mechanisms. They are rapid mechanisms, intermediate compensatory reactions, and long-term compensatory reactions. So, rapid compensatory mechanisms, they are also known as neural mechanisms because they are immediately active and they act after acute blood loss. Aim of these mechanisms is to maintain blood flow to vital organs. Now, these mechanisms are short-term mechanisms and therefore they are known as neural mechanisms. Now, first is baroreceptor reflex. Baroreceptors are pressure-sensitive nerve endings. They are present in carotid sinus and aortic arch. You can see here, this is carotid sinus, this is aortic arch, present in the wall of the blood vessel. When the blood pressure decreases, impulse discharge from the baroreceptor decreases, and therefore there is generalized increase in the sympathetic vasomotor discharge. This vasomotor discharge is given to the heart and the blood vessel. You can see here, decrease in the pressure that results in transmission of impulses through 9th and 10th cranial nerve, that is glossopharyngeal and vagus nerve, to the medulla. Medulla has vasomotor center, and when these vasomotor centers are stimulated, that results in vasoconstriction. When veins are constricted, venous return increases and therefore cardiac output increases, and when arteries are constricted, peripheral resistance increases. Along with that, vasomotor centers, they stimulate heart also, and therefore heart rate and force of contraction also increases. Now, here, because of vasoconstriction, there is shifting of the blood. What does it mean? Vasoconstriction is more marked in vessels of the skin, vessels of abdominal viscera, kidneys and skeletal muscle. So these are the blood vessels. They have maximum decrease in the blood flow, whereas other blood vessels of vital organ, mainly vessels of the heart and brain, they are not affected. Their blood flow is not affected. Next is chemoreceptor reflex. You can see chemoreceptors are present in carotid bodies and aortic bodies. You can see here, this is carotid body and aortic body. They sense chemicals, and the important chemical in the blood, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide. So, if there is hemorrhage, this hemorrhage results in loss of RBCs, and when RBCs are reduced, oxygen carrying capacity is reduced, and therefore oxygen supply to the chemoreceptors is reduced. And you can see anemia and stagnant hypoxia results because of hemorrhage. And this anemia and stagnant hypoxia, along with that, when the metabolism increases, that results in acidosis. Because of all these changes in the blood chemicals, chemoreceptors are stimulated. And these chemoreceptors, they send signals through glossopharyngeal and vagus nerve to the medullary centers, vasomotor centers. And again, the reflex is same as baroreceptor reflex. There is vasoconstriction and stimulation of heart to increase heart rate and force of contraction. Now, baroreceptors are stimulated between 60 to 180 mm of mercury pressure, whereas chemoreceptors, they are stimulated when the blood pressure falls below 60 mm of mercury. Third rapid mechanism, that is CNS ischemic response. The name itself suggests ischemia to the central nervous system when blood pressure falls below 50 mm of mercury. This response is elicited. Here there is powerful sympathetic stimulation. Now, what are the effects of powerful sympathetic stimulation? There is powerful generalized vasoconstriction. Most of the blood vessels are constricted except blood vessels of brain and heart. There is generalized venoconstriction. Veins are also constricted. Adrenal medulla is stimulated, and as the adrenal medulla is stimulated, catecholamines are released, and they also have sympathetic-like activity. Reticular activating system, when it is stimulated, that results in restlessness, apprehension and irritability. Because of all these effects, vasoconstriction and venoconstriction, venous return increases, and as the venous return increases, according to Frank-Starling's law, cardiac output also increases. Because of stimulation of vasomotor centers, there is tachycardia, increase in the heart rate, as well as blood pressure decreases, that is Mary's reflex. Tachycardia, when heart rate increases, blood pressure decreases. Because of tachycardia, there is rapid and thready pulse that is found. Another, along with vasomotor center, respiratory centers are also stimulated, and that results in rapid and shallow breathing. When sympathetic is stimulated, because of sympathetic stimulation, blood flow to the skin is reduced, as we have discussed. Along with that, sympathetic stimulation causes sweating, and therefore skin becomes pale as well as cold and moist. Cyanotic change is also found, and that is because of increased oxygen extraction from the blood. Now, renal vasoconstriction. What are the effects of renal vasoconstriction? Because of renal vasoconstriction, ischemia to the kidney tissue, and this ischemia releases angiotensin II. Effects of angiotensin II, it stimulates circumventricular organ, and when circumventricular organ is stimulated, that stimulates the thirst. Person is having thirst. When afferent arterioles are constricted, GFR decreases, and when efferent arterioles are constricted, renal plasma flow is reduced, and because of decrease in the GFR and renal plasma flow, filtration fraction increases, and that produces oliguria, that is decreased urine output. So urine output denotes whether our shock is progressive or not. Then sodium is also retained because of angiotensin aldosterone mechanism. Nitrogenous waste products are also retained, and that results in uremia. And later on, there is acute renal failure because of severe renal tubular damage, and that results in loss of ability of kidneys to concentrate urine. Now, most of the compensatory changes are because of sympathetic discharge. Now, if suppose sympathetic nerves are removed, like in sympathectomized animal, this animal cannot tolerate blood loss more than 30%, and if the blood loss is more than 30%, the animal may die. And sometimes, as we have discussed, in shock there is cold and pale skin, and if we treat the person by reflex warming, that results in abolishment of sympathetic discharge, and the person will die. Now, intermediate compensatory mechanisms, they include renin-angiotensin vasoconstriction mechanism as well as reverse stress relaxation and capillary fluid shift mechanisms. Long-term mechanisms, here after 12 to 72 hours, plasma volume starts restoration. And these changes are, as we have discussed, compensatory shock has all the changes after moderate hemorrhage. If the hemorrhage is severe, then compensatory mechanisms, they don't work. Along with that, albumin also enters from extravascular stores. So blood albumin, plasma albumin level increases. Now, restoration of red blood cell mass. For that, because of hypoxia and anemia, erythropoietin is stimulated, and this erythropoietin increases RBC production. And this RBC production requires about 10 days. So normal mass of the cell, that is restored in 4 to 8 weeks. Now, second stage of shock, that is also known as progressive stage or progressive shock. Here, it occurs after 15 to 25% loss of total blood volume. Here, compensatory mechanisms, they are not able to stop the progression of the shock, and therefore require therapeutic intervention. Therapeutic interventions that results in deterioration of regulatory mechanisms, and this deterioration is because of positive feedback mechanism. Now, this positive feedback mechanism will cause progressive decrease in the cardiac output and the patient will die. These positive feedback mechanisms, they will cause progressive decrease in the cardiac output and patient will go into the stage of refractory shock, that is the third stage. Now, which are these positive feedback cycles? Positive feedback cycles, they are required to be interrupted by therapeutic interventions as we have discussed, otherwise the person will go in refractory shock. Here first is cardiac failure. What is the cause of cardiac failure? Because arterial pressure decreases and mainly when the diastolic pressure decreases, coronary blood flow decreases and as coronary blood flow decreases, that results in ischemia. And this positive feedback causes progressive deterioration of cardiac function and that results in complete heart failure also. So that is first is cardiac failure. Second, that is vasomotor failure. What happens here when there is severe fall in the blood pressure? There is cerebral ischemia, means blood flow to the brain is reduced and as blood flow is reduced, medullary vasomotor centers, they are failed. And medullary vasomotor centers are important for vasoconstriction and increase in the heart rate and force of contraction. So all these mechanisms, they are failed and that results in decrease in the venous return and as the venous return decreases, cardiac output and blood pressure, both they are reduced. Third, that is peripheral circulatory failure. Here what happens? When there is prolonged and intense vasoconstriction to various blood vessels, that results in hypoxia and because of hypoxia, metabolites are accumulated. Because of hypoxia and accumulation of metabolites, capillary permeability increases and therefore large amount of fluid comes out into the tissue and as the large amount of fluid comes out, blood volume decreases. Now, another effect of the compensatory mechanism, that is sludged blood. Small vessels, they get blocked. Sluggish blood flow to the microvessels and this blockage of minute blood vessel in the circulatory system causes the shock to progress. Now, what is the reason here? Because tissue metabolism continues to increase and blood flow is reduced. Because of that, large amount of acids are produced, lactic acid as well as carbonic acid. And these acids, they empty into the local vessels and they increase acidity of the blood. Now, these acids as well as deterioration products of the ischemic tissue, because of all these products, there is local blood agglutination and that results in formation of small clots. Now these small clots, they block the blood vessels. Even if the vessel do not become plugged, there is increased tendency for the blood cell to stick to one another. These blood cells, they stick to one another, which makes it more difficult for the blood to flow through microvasculature and therefore that give rise to the term sludged blood. Now, next is septicemia and toxemia. These are the terminologies. One is bacteremia, that is bacteria present in the blood, you can see here. Septicemia, that is organisms growing in the blood. Toxemia means toxins in the blood and viremia means virus in the blood. So here we discuss about these two terminologies. Septicemia, that is organisms, they grow in blood, and toxemia means toxins are released. Now what is the reason for this? Because of prolonged vasoconstriction, mainly of splanchnic blood vessels, digestive tract is not getting blood, so there is hypoxia. And because of hypoxic damage, normal protective mucosa of the digestive tract, that is broken down, and therefore intestinal bacteria now they come into the portal circulation. Another cause, that is there is deterioration of liver functions, which permits bacteria and bacterial endotoxins to reach into the systemic circulation. When they reach to the systemic circulation, they produce septicemia and toxemia. Now, because of the effect of these toxins, there is failure of arteriolar and precapillary sphincter. So, arteriolar and precapillary sphincters are failed and that results in dilatation of arterioles and precapillary. These toxins, they affect the heart. Cardiac depression is the result of septicemia and toxemia. excessive vasodilatation, and if we are not treating the person, and that results in circulatory dysfunctions too. Now, which are the effects of progressive shock on various body tissues? Because of progressive shock, there is widespread degeneration of the cells of various body tissue. Generalized damage to the cell usually occur first in the highly metabolic tissue like liver, lung and heart. Liver cells are first affected because they have highest metabolic rate. As well as liver cells, they are exposed to the toxin because these toxins they come from intestine through the portal vein to the liver tissue. Other damaging effects are sodium potassium pump gets deactivated because it requires ATP, and therefore sodium concentration increases inside and potassium concentration increases outside, and that results in swelling of the cell. Also, mitochondrial activity in the liver cell decreases, as well as other cell mitochondrial activity is affected. Lysosomes present in the cell, they begin to split, and lysosomes they release their enzymes, mainly hydrolases. These are the enzymes, they cause widespread intracellular damage. Cellular metabolism of various nutrients like glucose that is greatly depressed in later stages of shock. It may be because of suppression of insulin action. Now, poor delivery of oxygen to the tissue. As oxygen is not delivered, then oxidative metabolisms are affected, and therefore now anaerobic glycolysis starts. And because of anaerobic glycolysis, there is accumulation of lactic acid. Now this lactic acid, along with that, blood flow is also reduced, so this lactic acid gets accumulated. Along with that, carbon dioxide is also accumulated. This carbon dioxide dissolves in water and it produces carbonic acid and it increases H plus ion concentration, so there is acidosis. And because of acidosis, there is further vasodilatation and further shock aggravates, and this is the vicious cycle that starts. You can see here in this diagram, this is the vicious cycle we'll discuss. You can see here, first cardiac output decreases, and as the cardiac output decreases, arterial pressure decreases. Arterial pressure decreases, so blood flow to various tissue decreases. Decrease in the systemic blood flow suppresses cardiac nutrition, as we have discussed, coronary blood flow decreases. Decrease nutrition to other tissue. When nutrition to the brain is reduced, you can see vasomotor activity decreases, and vasomotor failure that results in the vascular dilatation, and venous pooling of the blood that decreases venous return. Another, when nutrition of vascular system is affected, capillary permeability increases, and that results in decrease in the blood volume, and when the blood volume decreases, venous return also decreases. Third, when tissue ischemia is there is release of toxin, and these toxins they also have cardiac depressive effects. And because of depression of heart, again there is further decrease in the cardiac output. You can see here, that is vicious cycle. Another is because of decrease in the venous return, also there is decrease in the cardiac output. So this is the positive feedback mechanism in progressive shock. Next is refractory shock. When the shock is not treated in the progressive stage, then this vicious cycle that results in deterioration of tissue functions, and now the patient passes into the third stage, which is known as refractory shock. In refractory shock, any kind of therapeutic intervention is not effective and the patient will die. Now, what are the causes of refractiveness of shock? Main factor which is responsible for refractiveness, that is depletion of high energy phosphate compound. Why? Because ATP is degraded into ADP and ADP is converted into adenosine. Now this adenosine is converted into uric acid, which will not go back into the cell, and that results in decrease in the high energy phosphate compound. Now this high energy phosphate reserves in the cell of the body, that is very important, and when it is reduced, especially when it is reduced in the liver and heart, that results in severe degree of shock. Tissue damage in the refractory shock. Here there is necrosis of cell in our body. In kidney there is acute tubular necrosis that leads to acute renal failure and uremia and death. when lung functions are deteriorated, that leads to respiratory distress and shock lung syndrome. So this is all about pathophysiology of shock. Thank you.